liftoff started. Roger, 0G, I feel fine. Godspeed, John Glenn.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
1, 0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, Roger. Go for deploy.
And to everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Good afternoon and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm Chelsea Bayarte, joined by two very special guests, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams. They are getting ready to they're getting ready to launch in support of NASA's Boeing crew flight test mission scheduled for May 6th and will be the first ever humans to launch aboard the Starliner spacecraft. Butch and Sunny, it's really great to see you guys today. We're going to be taking questions on the phone and on social media. So if you're joining us from the phone bridge, please go ahead and press *1 to enter our question queue. If your question has already been asked or you would like to exit the question queue, please go ahead and press *2 to lower your virtual hand in our question queue. But we're also going to be taking questions on social media. So if you have a question and you're following along, please submit your question using #AskNASA. We have a dedicated team here looking out for your questions, so go ahead and submit your questions at this time using #AskNASA. But of course, the people of the hour, Butch and Sunny, how are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're here in crew quarters at Kennedy Space Center, and I say if I could describe what I feel right now in 2 words, would be well fed. They feed us well.
I would absolutely agree with that. Everybody here has been so supportive. We have people from NASA, of course, Boeing, ULA that we're working with on a daily basis, reviewing what we're doing here at crew quarters, and it's just been really remarkable to understand and know that our launch date is right upon us.
All right, so tell me a little bit about where you guys are right now. So it's astronaut crew quarters, but what is that? What are you guys spending your time doing?
Yeah, it's on the 3rd floor of the ONC building, which is next to the Space Station Processing Facility, which is also next to the Kennedy Space Center headquarters. A little bit away from the pads, you can see them from the roof. If you went up we actually went up to the roof and watched a SpaceX launch the other night. So here at Kennedy Space Center, in and amongst all the critters, the hogs, and everything else that's here.
Yeah, it's just a building, like I described to my friends. It's a building that they've taken apart, allowed one portion of the 3rd floor, like Butch mentioned, that has our living quarters where we sleep. They have a medical facility. They have a kitchen. And so they've been taking care of us. And we get an opportunity to go out and take a jog, take a walk around and see the critters at the nighttime when everybody's gone.
Yeah, while we're running, we hurdle the alligators because there's a lot of those here, too.
Well, it sounds like they're taking good care of you guys. So I want to go ahead and jump into our questions. It's an awesome opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. So I'm going to start out with the phone bridge, and if you have a question, please say your name and affiliation. And we're going to go ahead and start today with Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Hello. Here at Kennedy Space Center, too. For either or both of you, any last-minute jitters as you get ready to break in a new spacecraft, and how are you dealing with all the pressure as the countdown builds?
You know, Marcia, we've both been here before, been in crew quarters, getting ready to launch on a shuttle. I don't necessarily think it's jitters. I'm just thinking it's more like last-minute checks and, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. We spent a lot of time working in development of the spacecraft and working with the folks at ULA, understanding our rocket. So I personally don't feel it's jitters. I just feel like I'm excited to share this opportunity with my friends and family who are coming in a day or two, and I think that's what is actually really making me a little bit nervous. I'm just excited for them to be here.
Yeah, there's no well, not yet anyway, jitters. Preparation, always preparing, getting the mindset, getting all the procedures, everything, reviewing all of that. That's just part of the process, and that's what we're doing. So that's what we're staying focused on.
All right, so it sounds like there are not any jitters from the critters that you're seeing around, and some minimal launch jitters, at least so far anyway. We're going to move on to our next question with Bill Harwood with CBS.
Yeah, thanks, Bill Harwood, CBS News. You guys have been training for this flight, I think, longer than Neil and Buzz trained for Apollo 11. I mean, what's it like on a personal level to finally be on the verge of blasting off on this spacecraft atop an Atlas and finally getting this mission underway? Thanks.
Yeah, Bill, that's a good question. We have been through quite the process over the years, and it's been really a thrilling process. I mean, to be two Navy-trained test pilots and be into the process of this first flight and all that goes into that and all the discovery that we've had over the years and working together with our Boeing counterparts, test after test, evaluation after evaluation, every single day is different, and that's been intriguing and thrilling along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll add to that. It almost feels unreal. Like, we've had a couple launch dates and we've been like, okay, we're ready to go. But now it's like, heck, 5 days. And friends of mine are doing their countdown in their classrooms. And that's like, we're sharing this with so many people, which means it is actually finally real. And I sort of have to pinch myself a little bit to understand where we're going.
Our next question is also on our phone bridge. Jonathan Seri with Fox News.
What's the biggest difference in training for being a test pilot as opposed to an astronaut traveling on a spacecraft that's already in routine use? And related, if you could each speak briefly on what most drives your passion for being test pilots. Thank you.
Jonathan, that is a good question. So when we've been through training flows, these are established programs with the space shuttles we mentioned earlier and also the Soyuz. We've both flown Soyuz. And those are established training programs built on years and years of experience. This has not been that. This has been a developmental process where we've been involved, ensconced in that process, all the way from hardware and software evaluations in the simulator. We've got our fingerprints on every single procedure that exists for this spacecraft, and that's part of what the test process is. It's test and development, and that's what we've really been involved with. So it's hard to say we've been training. We've been training, yes, but we've been in training and development and the whole everything that comes with that along the way, and that's what's been really intriguing about the whole thing.
And real quick, a way I think to sum it up is, when we both trained for shuttle and Soyuz, we're like, there was a couple times where things maybe didn't quite make sense, or maybe there could have been a better way to do it. And, we all ask ourselves, why didn't they do it this way? Why didn't they do it this way? Well, this is our opportunity to actually, lay that groundwork. So in the future, we hope that people won't ask why we did it one way or another. They'll realize that maybe, we thought about this really hard. I mean, we're thinking about this for not only our flight, but for the flight of Starliner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everybody who's going to come behind us and fly the spacecraft. We want to make it as best as possible. And that's really what's been going on in our mind. We are the ones who are working with the engineering teams to make all that happen.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'll just piggyback on that. We're saying us, and it's when we say us, in my mind, it's not me and Sonny. Yeah. It is a whole team of people, like I said, at Boeing, at NASA, engineers, flight controllers, everything working together towards this common goal.
So we've been talking a lot about your launch and what's leading up to it. We have a question from social media from Natasha, who wants to know what it's going to be like when you actually get to the International Space Station. So she wants to know, is there any exciting research that you'll be conducting on this mission?
So, I think it's going to be like going back home. Both of us have lived there for 6 months and pretty much know the space station. We had the opportunity to talk to the on-orbit crew just the other day, and they were giving us a little bit of an update of what's happening. But our mission is primarily a test mission, is really to check out flying the spacecraft to the space station, docking, and then checking it out while it's docked to make sure that it could be a safe haven. It can remain docked to the space station for a number of months. So there's a lot of activities that are we will be doing, working with that. If we end up staying for a little bit longer and we get all of our checks in the block done for our spacecraft, we'll be happy to help out the guys who are up there on the ISS for whatever they're doing. I think Butch and I both like like doing maintenance. We're tool guys, and so if there's anything that needs to happen for the space station, we are ready to do that. But our main goal for this spacecraft is really testing it out, shaking it out, not only going to the space station docking, but also then coming home. So we have a lot on our minds thinking about that. But when we get a little bit of a downtime, we're happy to help our colleagues.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, you basically said it, is we're fully trained in all aspects of Starliner and all the tests that we'll be doing. And they're both tests going up toward Space Station before we get there, while we're attached, and tests when we're on our way home. And while we're at Space Station, we're fully bona fide certified Space Station crew members and can do whatever we're asked to do while we're there. Yeah.
All right, Natasha, thank you so much for your question. We're going to switch on over to our phone bridge and now take a question from Stephen Clark with Ars Technica.
Thanks. Butch, Sonny, y'all had a chance to climb into Starliner last Friday, I believe, out at the VIF. I just wanted to get your impressions of, I know you've been in the spacecraft many times before, but seeing it in its near flight-ready configurations, what was the fit like inside? Just what was that experience like? And is that the last time you'll be inside until launch day, or do you get another opportunity to go in before Monday?
Yeah, that was the last time that we'll be in it before we actually climb into launch. And I tell you, when you've been through the process we've been through, and to be able to crawl into the, it's not our spacecraft, but we term it that way, crawl into our spacecraft and snuggle in there and strap in with our spacesuits on, looking at the data on the displays. And on launch day, that data is going to be real and valid data. We've been using simulated data for years now, but when we lay back on our backs on Monday evening, it's going to be real stuff, and the countdowns are going to be real, and it's going to be a really thrilling time. Not just for us, but everybody that's been involved in the process all the way through.
Yeah, I would definitely just agree. It felt good to get in our spacesuits and get in our spacecraft and be all plugged in and be able to, communicate to everybody back at home in mission control. It felt like, again, coming home, like this is where we're supposed to be, and I think the appropriate time will be Monday.
Our next question from the phone bridge is from Alicia Sars with Mashable. Alicia, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Alicia Sowers from Mashable. I can just imagine that after learning of one setback after another for this spacecraft, it would make this test flight understandably kind of scary for your friends and family. And so I'm wondering, how have you talked with them about the problems Starliner has previously encountered, and how have you convinced them that you're going to get back home safe and sound?
Yeah, that is a common phrase, and I understand it when you say setback. But honestly, with all the discovery, that's what we would term it, that we've had, it's been steps forward. Yeah, we find an issue, but that's something that we didn't know existed in some cases, and we rectify that. And the spacecraft, I mean, if we could go back just 3 years and talk about the capabilities of the spacecraft, what it was then as envisioned, and then where it's at now after these discoveries and the rectification and fixing all of those issues that we found, it's really leaps and bounds forward. There's been, when we first find it, it's a stop. Let's look at this. But it's not been a setback. It's been pressing forward, and our families have lived that with us, and they've experienced that along with us. And we've tried to articulate that to them so they understand exactly what we're going through as well.
Yeah, just like Butch said when we landed here, we're here because we're all ready. And our families and friends have heard about it along the way. We've talked about all the issues that we've encountered, and I think they're happy and proud that we've been part of the process to fix it all. So like I said, they're all coming pretty soon, probably starting tomorrow, and they'll be here for the ride with us.
Our next question is from Will Robinson-Smith with Spaceflight Now.
Hi, much for taking the time to answer our questions, and good luck coming up on Monday. The last time that Starliner was on orbit, the Crew 4 astronauts got to go inside and unload some of the cargo that was on board. This time around, with Crew 8 and Tracy Dyson up there ready to meet y'all, will any or part of the on-orbit crew be rendezvousing with you guys inside the spacecraft, or what sort of interaction will they have as far as being within the Starliner spacecraft itself once it's docked to station? Thanks.
If they're nice, we'll let them in. No, we're excited. We're excited to show off our spacecraft to our friends. But it is our main goal to take care of our spacecraft. We do have one exercise where we're going to check out the living compartment for 4 people. So we will take 2 of them and bring them in with us and make sure everything looks good for 4, because the next time this spacecraft flies to the space station, it will take up 4 people. So we want to check it all out and make sure it's all ready to go. And one of the people up there, Matt Dominic, he was the Capcom for the Starliner mission for a while before he got assigned to Crew 8. So he's very familiar, and I know he's chomping at the bit to get in. Tracy, of course, I know she wants to check it out, and as well as Mike Barrett and Jeanette. So, of course, we're going to give them a little tour around. We're not going to let them touch too much stuff, because it's our stuff. No, I'm joking. But we'll be happy to have them come in and showcase our spacecraft.
Nothing to add. Well said.
That is awesome, Butch and Sunny. Our next question is another fun one from Daniel Wagner on YouTube, who wants to know, what is your favorite space food that you're looking forward to having while in orbit?
Chocolate pudding cake. There's nothing left to be said. It's fabulous.
I think they still have muffin tops. Those are pretty awesome, too.
All right, sounds great. Our next question is back on our phone bridge from Elizabeth Howell with Space.com.
Hi, both of you. Thanks for finding the time in such a busy moment. I was curious if you could talk a little bit more about how your test pilot experience is helping you with both the development for Starliner as well as obviously this mission. Thank you.
Well, goodness, that's really the reason that we are here. I mean, that's because of the background that we brought to NASA. And I don't think either one of us ever dreamed that we'd be associated with the first flight of a brand new spacecraft. I know I didn't. But we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. The training that we both received at Navy Test Pilot School, I actually went and did an exchange tour with the Air Force and did a exchange with them as an instructor at Air Force Test Pilot School as well. And that background of understanding test, acquisition, what's required to certify various components, the integration of the various systems together, the vital importance of making sure that in an integrated fashion everything works as planned. I think that's been invaluable for the process, and those that have had the same type of training we've had along the way.
Yeah, and I really give Butch a lot of credit. It's easy to just say, yeah, that's good, let's just go. But he asks the question why all the time, and it's really, that is the enlightening part of getting into understanding what's going on with the behind the scenes engineering of some of the capabilities of the spacecraft. Like, why does that happen? Why does that say that on the display? How is that going to help me? How is that going to lead me down a wrong path or a right path? And I've watched him do it a number of times. Both of us also have, our pilots, so that helps us with the flying part of the spacecraft. This spacecraft has a very unique capability of, a THC, a RHC rotational hand controller, and a THC translational hand controller, and allows us to put our hands on the sticks and fly. And we can understand, what we've been trained in, handling qualities, how the spacecraft flies. There's a rating scale for that, and we've been fully entrenched with that from day one of test pilot school. So all of that stuff leads into the, like our background, checking out, working with the developers and the engineers and the operators. Like Butch said, we have our fingers on most every single procedure that we'll be working up there, and asking the question on all of that, why, and really understanding it.
And I think also that background enables us to know at certain times, what questions to ask.
Yep, exactly.
Just something basic, a question. If you're testing a couple of boxes that are integrated together, what are those boxes? Are those boxes representative of what we have in the spacecraft? What's the firmware, if you know what firmware is, in those boxes? Those type of questions, and getting ensuring that the test is representative of what the spacecraft will be doing on orbit. So all that's important to know.
Our next question is for Jim Siegel with NASA Tech.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for taking my question. Jim Siegel here. I'm interested in whether there were any unexpected aspects of your preparations for going through the whole developmental process and for your upcoming trip to the ISS? Thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of new finds, right? This is like you mentioned, a developmental program. So every time we have an idea of how it's going to work, and we test it out, and we check out the data, we want to see how it displays that information back to us. We always find stuff, and we are going to continually find stuff. Everything's not going to be absolutely perfect as we fly the spacecraft, and that's really what our goal is. We've got it to a point, all of us, big team, got it to a point that we feel very safe and comfortable how the spacecraft flies, and we have backup procedures in case we need those. But we're going to find new things, and we're going to write those things down, and we're going to relay all that and fix it for the next time this spacecraft flies. So I'm trying to think of a specific example of things we've found, but it's a continual process, and that's okay. I mean, just simple things like being in our suit in the spacecraft and the routing of our umbilicals and our comm cables. What's the optimum way to do that? We haven't done that much in the spacecraft, and we're learning on a day-to-day basis how to optimize all of that stuff.
Yeah. Also, when we do our tests, and let me see how I can phrase this. Do the test. We've got all these various boxes in integrated fashion like we talked about. There are 3 modes that this spacecraft can fly in, fully automated. Just sit back and take a nap. Not a nap, just joking. But, observing, seeing what's taking place, going along with the system, understanding how those systems operate. There are certain failure modes that put the controls, as Sonny said, into our hands. So it's actually manual control with the computers all operating. So you put an input into the control, it sends a signal to the computer signal sends a signal out to the reaction control system jets for maneuverability. And then there's this fail-safe backup mode. Let's say your computers fail or some other failures occur, and you need just basic, no computers there, just basic control to the jets. And through another box called an integrated propulsion controller, we can go into this backup mode and actually control the spacecraft all the way to a pinpoint landing back here on Earth, which is no other spacecraft has those capabilities. So again, automatic mode, manual mode, backup mode, and this is something that we've been in the process of developing, refining, and making. I don't know if perfect's the right word. Nothing's ever perfect, but as perfect as it can be. I mean, when you can go into backup mode halfway through an entry and still hit the bullseye when you don't even have your computers, that's pretty remarkable. And this is the only spacecraft that can do that.
We're continuing to take some questions on our phone bridge. Our next one comes from David Denault with the outlet About Space Today.
First, let me wish you Godspeed on your mission. And next, I guess people would say, well, you've been there, you've done that, but what is new and unique for each of you about this mission?
I think the better question might be, what's the same of the past ones? Exactly. There's so much new. Everything is new. Everything's unique. The spacecraft itself, the way it flies. Both Sonny and I have flown a capsule before, the Russian Soyuz, but this spacecraft, the Soyuz gets you to space and gets you back to Earth. But this spacecraft will do that, and again, like I said, with pinpoint accuracy in all of its modes. The Soyuz doesn't even do that. The Soyuz has a ballistic mode where basically it comes back in the atmosphere in a ballistic trajectory, meaning it's not really under control, but it lands 400 meters shy of the target. As an example, the space shuttle, of course, was a lifting body, and it's completely different than flying a capsule. It only lands on land, on a runway. So when you do your deorbit burn, you got one place that you can make it, and that's not the case with a capsule. The black zones on the shuttle, there were many what we call term black zones, where if you had specific failures in certain parts of the trajectory as you're, getting into orbit, you could not survive. You would not survive if you had certain failures. This spacecraft does not have those. It had black zones on entry before we refined that backup mode I mentioned, and now those are gone. So completely different, much different, much more difference than similarities in what we've done in the past.
And one other thing I wanted to add with that one's pad aborts, right? So we can abort from the pad all the way up through orbit. So that capability is great, and we're on the tippity top end, so we'll be okay. Not going to say that ride's going to be super calm, but we'll be okay. Also, I just want to say, like, these are three very, very different spacecraft, and I think it's really an honor to be able to use the experience that we had in the shuttle program, the Soyuz program, and bring that experience into a brand new program. Sort of like I was talking about earlier, hopefully the decisions and the thought process philosophies that we have worked with our engineers making the spacecraft and creating the operational concepts are legacy from those other two programs, and trying to make the best of programs that we've experienced before. So why do the same thing twice? Let's do something different every single time.
That sounds great. Our next question is from Sophie Sanchez with Cosmic Chicago.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. This is Sophie Sanchez with Chicago Now. First, I want to wish the two of you good luck and Godspeed this coming week on your mission. And then you guys are joining a very short list of astronauts that have tested and certified new spacecraft. Can you share with me how you personally feel about your role and the legacy you're creating on this mission? Thank you.
The first word comes to my mind is humbled. It's just the opportunity that the stars aligned and they put us in this position. It's a very humbling position to be in. Grateful, and I think back to people like John Young, who flew STS-1 the first time, and I was the first on the first flight of the Gemini as well. And I actually knew John a bit. He was still in the astronaut office when I arrived, when Sandy and I both arrived. And to be able to follow along and do something that he did is just very humbling. It certainly is, because he was a test pilot. He was the astronaut's astronaut, so to speak, and even be in a position to do something similar to what he did is just it's really amazing.
Yeah. Really honored to be in this position. I think we just want to do our job, right? And do the best that we can do. Somehow, like Butch said, the stars align, and here we are on this spacecraft for the first time that it will fly. But I think it's just a result of doing your job and being ready to take any challenge that our country and our office is going to give us.
We have another question here on the phone bridge, this time from Robert Perlman with Collect Space.
Hi, Sunny and Butch. Robert Perlman with Collect Space. My apologies if this has already been asked. I was delayed calling in, but Starliner is not the only vehicle you're becoming the first to ride, but also Boeing's new Astrovan 2. During your launch rehearsal a few days ago, can you share if the ride out to the pad felt familiar to the shuttle-era Astrovan, or how did the ride compare?
Let me start. You are the first to ask that question, so you arrived just on time. And now I'm going to let Butch answer.
It's epic. I mean, you're in the Astrovan. It's got cushion seats, and of course, it's got a big video screen in the back. And as you would expect, two Navy test pilots. You know what movie we put on, and actually asked them. They edited out. And put only in the flying scenes and the dramatic scenes. Of course, it was Top Gun Maverick. And we will watch the same one on the way out to the pad Monday night.
We did watch the beach scene as well, and there was a beautiful helicopter that flew right past those guys as they were playing football. So I had to add that in there.
That sounds amazing. We're going to switch over now to social media questions. So Paula from Facebook asks, what do you do on a typical day during your mission?
I don't think any day is actually going to be typical, but we have it all laid out. We have this great group of people called I call them the Fun Activities Office. They arrange all of our timeline and make sure we know what we're going to do every moment of that. So on our tablets, on our way up, we have the whole timeline laid out there, what we're going to do. We pretty much know it already, and we have one procedure that leads to the next, right? So we're going for our ascent, then we're going to go orbit insertion, and then we're going to start our rendezvous process, and just configuring the capsule to make sure everything is okay. We'll do some test points, flying test points, and then just getting the spacecraft ready for us to take a nap for a little bit and then wake up the next morning for the rendezvous. And then the rendezvous is an all-day process, as well as, making sure the pressure checks between the two spacecraft, the ISS and our spacecraft, are okay. And then we'll open the hatch and come into ISS. So both of these days are going to be pretty long. I neglected to say launch day starts a little bit early, starts about 4 hours or 5 hours before launch while we're getting ready, getting all prepared, making sure our suits are all ready to go. So every day has all of these items laid out for us, and so we're pretty much on a timeline, making sure we're going to get everything done. And the same goes for when we're on the International Space Station. We will see all of our events laid out on the computers of what we're supposed to do that day, both in the space station and then on our spacecraft. So it's going to be a busy process. I think we have at least 8 days of test points and things like that, and maybe we'll get a weekend in there if we can extend a little bit longer.
I'll just make 2 clarifications. Everything in spaceflight is fun. I agree, but they're not called fun activities officer. Just for clarification, it's flight activities officer. So that's what that role is. And as Sonny said, the day starts early, and it does. But it's not much different than doing a spacewalk. I mean, people don't realize this, but because the spacewalk and the pressurization you have in the suit, it's almost like diving. Mm-hmm. So you have to purge nitrogen out of your system, out of your body, and you're basically starting the suit up, getting in the suit 5 hours before you even open the hatch. And the day really starts when you open the hatch, the work starts. And it's similar here. So we'll be up and then going, suiting up, getting out the patch, crawling in, doing those things. Hours and hours, about the same, about 5 hours prior. And then the work begins once launch happens. So just to clarify those. Yeah.
All right, I've got a great question here submitted on social media from Dog Lovin' Oma on X, who wants to know, do you have a special nickname for this vehicle?
Well, this vehicle was named a little while ago. The vehicle, a nickname? Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. This spacecraft was named, and Butch will explain that in a second, because if you want some inside scoop, this is it. But yes, this spacecraft was named a couple years ago after it flew its first time. So this little tough bird is actually called Calypso. I named her. I got the privilege of naming her. It was a really amazing request that folks asked me if I was out at the landing site if I'd name it, and I said yeah, sure. And it's a little bit of a homage, a bow to Jacques Cousteau, who, like, when I was growing up, I couldn't wait to go watch his TV shows to see what he was going to explore, and the ship that took him on his exploration was named Calypso. So I thought it was appropriate that this spacecraft is going to take a lot of people up to the space station for exploration, so I named her Calypso.
Yeah, the vehicle issue, this is something that historically over decades, the spacecraft have been referred to as vehicles. But when we came in and started this process, we decided we were going to use the spacecraft term because it was just a subtle reminder, constant subtle reminder, every time we talked about it, of the magnitude and the responsibility that we truly have in working with all the people we work with, and the responsibility of human spaceflight. It is it's a global thing that people all over the world see this, because there's not many places that do human spaceflight. So we use that term, and when we slip and use the V word, we always remind each other that it is a spacecraft. But because, like I said, it's important what we're doing with national interests and global implications.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got another question on social media from Kyle on X, who wants to know, continuing on with the Astronaut in the Loop theme, would each of you provide a specific example of the design change that you offered that was incorporated?
Oh, wow. Let's think. Do you have a good one? I don't have a good one quite yet. I got to think about that for a second. Give me a second.
I think that
team effort.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say that I did it.
I know.
Maybe I voiced it. Other people thought it. These black zones I talked about earlier that we had on entry, it was just basically some of those things that were. It was just part of the process. As you go through, every spacecraft has them, but we sort of pushed and said, do we have to accept that? Do we have to accept these zones where you can't hit the bullseye, where we're landing in the desert, and there's not a lot of flat desert for hundreds of miles. It's very small. So we have a 4-kilometer circle, and around those circles are mountains. And if you land in the mountains, the chance of survival are minimized. So do we have to accept those? So we asked those questions and finally decided we didn't have to accept those. And now we have a means to hit the bullseye, even in those 3 modes, all 3 modes that I spoke of. So, I mean, that's one of them, I guess.
Yeah, and I think another example is just
And
generally.
again, that wasn't me. It was a team of people.
Yeah, again, another team event. I worked a lot with the hardware in the very beginning with the suits and the seats. And, you're laying on a metal back seat, right? And you want a little bit of cushioning because I'm just thinking about, like, as we land, I want to make sure that we'll be okay. And so we talked to other folks around NASA, Johnson Space Center, who are designing other spacecraft and, did a little checkpointing with other spacecraft and wanted to know what would be the best option for on the back of a seat and just also to stay within the requirements that we have to make sure that we're okay. So we added a bunch of padding on the back, which is really great because you're laying there for a little while before we launch. And then, like I mentioned, when you actually finally land. And we do land on airbags, so it should be a soft landing as from what we've seen. But Rosie, the Riveter, who was in the first spacecraft, didn't really come back and tell us anything. So we've got data from her, but Butch and I will be your next test dummies, and we'll tell you how that padding worked or not worked.
And just so in case of those that aren't familiar, Rosie was a literal dummy. She was like not human. So that's what she means by Rosie.
Thank you, Butch, for that clarification. Very important. Moving on to another social media question. BMX on Instagram wants to know what has been the best part of launch prep.
I think I said it when I first got it. We're well fed, and the variety of the food and our cooks.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been pretty amazing. Yeah.
And honestly, we've been here for a little while because we did this training exercise where we got in our suits in the seat in the spacecraft, and we had to come out a little bit early to do that. So it made me, who's a little bit of a procrastinator, get my act together, a week and a half ago before I came out here, and so. Things are starting to ramp up now, but it felt like, okay, I had a little bit of breathing room and have had the ability to work out a couple times a day and, just get myself ready. And I think that's been a nice break. Being at home is wonderful. I love my husband. I love my dogs, and I want to be there and hang out with them. But, it's always busy when you're home. So getting away and taking a little break and a little bit of downtime, I think has been really nice for me.
Yeah, busy. And this has been pretty demanding, this whole process over the last several months, going back to even years. And so we've taken some breaks now and then, but before you fly in space, you want to be ready, you want to be rested. Mm-hmm. And that's not just us, that's the entire teams. And that's what this couple of weeks gives us that. We're going to be physically ready, not like I said, not just us, but the mission control, all the people there, they're sleep shifting, they're doing those things just like we are. We're going to go to bed tonight at 1 a.m. and by the night before launch, we're going to go back. We're going to go to bed that day at 6 a.m. and get up at 3 in the afternoon to launch at 10:34 that night. So that's the way you want to be. You want to go into space, especially a first flight when there's such responsibility, as we said. And so the tasks that we'll be doing that first day once we get into space, we want to be rested and be ready. Yeah.
So speaking of food, have you guys put any thought into this ultimate meal or your last meal before launch?
Meatloaf. I'm going with the meatloaf. The cook here makes a fantastic meatloaf. We had it the first or second night we were here, and I thought I'm going that again. And some kind of broccoli something.
Yeah, and I'm from New England, and so my first option was like, oh, cool, it's lobster. That's what I'm going to have. But then I thought about it for a little while, and I'm a little smarter than that. Springtime is not the best time for lobster. And honestly, I haven't had lobster for a little while, so I'm a little bit worried about it. So I backed off and went to salmon, just something that my body is used to. I'll be ready to have that lobster when I get back and I land back here on Earth.
And corn on the cob.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Something to look forward to when you guys get home. And hats off to the chef here at KSD. Continuing on with our social media questions, we have one from That Opal Guy on YouTube who wants to know what special personal items will you guys be taking with you?
You see these Navy wings of gold here, and it's got the astronaut symbol in the center, so it makes it kind of special. I got when I first flew in space, I had real gold wings made into a ring, and I flew them for my wife, but I also had some man-size rings made for my dad and my brother, and I'm going to fly those for them. We also had another set of rings made for the one that's really put in a huge amount of work for all these years, and that's our scheduler, Michelle Beaujolais.
Hopefully she's getting some rest.
Yeah, and we're going to fly a ring, that gold ring for her as well. So those are some special things we'll take with us.
Yeah. I have a couple things from my family, but I have a couple things from a school in Massachusetts that sort of bears my name, and a bunch of 500 little students there who are going to be watching this launch, and hopefully their parents are going to let them stay up till 10:30 at night. So I have a bunch of stuff that represents that. I'm also Navy. I went to the Naval Academy, so have a couple things that represents that, and the class of '87. So we'll be ready. There'll be some surprises up there as well.
And I'm not going to let her get away with that. It doesn't sort of bear her name. It's the Sunita Williams Elementary School, so that's pretty special.
That's pretty cool.
All right, that sounds awesome. So we've got time for about one more question today, and I believe the username is pronounced Shertugal, but this person on X wants to know, what does your playlist sound like, look like on launch day?
Epic music. If it's in a fight scene, epic scene, flight scene in Top Gun Maverick, it's on my playlist. Epic music.
Yeah, that is true. It's definitely epic. Mine is not so epic, but I do like a little bit of country western, a little bit of a pop. So I got a little Kenny Chesney, got a little Zach Brown out there ready to go. So just thinking about, the beach and relaxing with family, I think is the tunes that I like.
Yeah. And just an example, if anyone wants to pull them up, Guardians at the Gate or Freedom Fighters are two examples.
All right, sounds like you guys have it all figured out. That sounds great. So that is about all the time that we have today. Butch and Sunny, thank you so much for all of your time. Thank you for joining us. We wish you all the best during NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test mission. And we can't wait to watch you launch on May 6th. We'll be back Friday, May 3rd with mission managers for a pre-launch news conference, and you can catch that as well as further coverage on NASA Plus and nasa.gov/live. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us.